Hey everyone, it's Travis speaking. We're just following up with this conceptual massing series. And in the last video, we talked about some of the model by face features and cut and join options. And so to move on with this, what I wanted to talk about was a method of figuring out the square footage for the floors in your conceptual mass. So the first things first is to create a schedule for mass floors. Okay, so if you watched the last video, you can see we created some of these floors in here. But these floors are system families. So just to give you an idea, if I go back to show mass by view settings, you can see here is the roof, the floor that we've put in. There's some walls in here. Okay, so all this stuff is just families, categories that we're going to see in our project environment once the masses are finally turned off. But we're using the masses to derive this square footage. So I'll turn that back on just so we can see what we're working with here. And I'm going to go down here to schedules, right click, and I'm going to say give me a new schedule quantities, and we're going to come in here and find mass, and we're going to expand that and use mass floor. Okay, so all I really want is let's see, I want the usage in there, and I want the floor area. Okay, we could choose perimeter, we could add a bunch of stuff in here, but I'm gonna get the level first, and I want the usage, and there was another I can't remember if the material that we used is going to show up with this parameter, but let's take a look anyway. If I say OK, all right, so I've got usage is blank. So back in the masses that we have, we'd have to probably put that parameter in, and it would tell us. But over here we can see the perimeters, we can see the floor area as a result, and by which floor. So if we wanted to get some totals in here, we could go to sort. We'll say let's sort by level, and we'll use itemize every instance, but we do want to get a total area from that one. So we're going to have a blank line in between with the footer in there, and let's see what happens. So on level 1, it tells me that I've got 3 floors, and it gives me my square footage. Now if I want to get the total in there and have it shown, I need to go back again to formatting. I'm going to choose floor area, and we want to have calculate totals on here. Okay, so I'll hit OK on that, and now I can see all the totals. So let's just say you know, when I find out all in all I need to decrease this size, how much square footage I have here. Okay, I'm gonna go back to 3D, and sorry, let's just take a quick look for we'll use level 5 here. So I've got 2 floors on level 5, and it's a total of 8,411 square feet. So if we want to try and get that down to say 6,000, we're going to have to go in and modify our conceptual masses. Okay, so let's just remember that number, 8,400. Okay, so we'll go back into 3D here, and I'm going to grab this guy because this one's probably the easiest one to edit. So we grab that form, and we'll say edit in place. And all I'm gonna do is just grab this initial form up here. So that's a roof, and then we've got this area that is mass floor, right? Okay, so let's take this whole thing and let's dissolve it. So it says constraints defined by highlighted lines can't be satisfied. Okay, so let's see what else we can do. What we could do is grab a face or two. Grab this one. Oh, it's not giving me the gimbal to stretch this out. Let's see if we can unjoin. So we'll say unjoin this from this. And can we grab that form now? Dissolve. Okay. So by unjoining those, we were able to dissolve this one here. So this floor in this area here is defined by this form. Okay. So what I'm going to do is take the bottom edge, and let's see if we can't shrink that down a little bit. So let's grab that edge there. We'll push it in. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing on this one as well. I'm going to push that one in. And you can see I've created some of these walls to match that original shape, but I want to see what happens now if I take that top form. So I get the bottom rectangle and the top rectangle, and we're going to recreate the form. And we're going to, let's see if we can match properties. If no, it's not going to let me. So let's grab the entire form again, and then we're going to call this schematic office one more time. Okay, so you can see how these floors are now projecting out. So we're going to get a little bit less floor on probably level 4 or 3, I'm not sure. So we'll say finish mass. Okay, and now if I select this floor and say update to face, it shrinks it down. We can do that with this guy as well. And the roof is probably the same thing. So 1 face out of 2, they will loss and redo. Let's just go for it. Okay, so you can see there's some things in here that have changed as a result, but I'm not going to get too fussy about this. What I want you to see is when we go back to the mass floor schedule, that 800 or 8,411 has now shifted to 74. So obviously I haven't taken off enough, but you get the picture, I hope. Anyway, so we can start to calculate the total square footage and get direct feedback real quick from these conceptual masses. And not only that, by modifying the conceptual mass, it's very easy to modify the system family that we've applied to it as well. Okay, so the mass floor schedule is pretty handy in that respect as well. But if we start creating views from the levels that we've got, we'll be able to inspect these things in plan view as well. So I've already got level 1 and 2. If I go up here to view and we choose plan views, let's create some more floor plans. So I'm just going to grab the rest of these guys, hit OK. And we can see in here, this is none of this stuff is really showing us a whole lot right now, right? The level 6, we don't have a floor in there, but if we go to level 5, right, and we go to VV and shut the mass off. Okay, so you can see masses are already off. We're going to turn them on and then select everything and shut that off. So we do want to see the forms and we want to see the mass floor. So we'll say OK to that. And if we click in here now, there's, okay, so that's a mass itself. Let's see if we can cycle through any of these. It's not showing me, it's not cutting through. Okay, let's try level 4 instead. That's still mass. Alright, let's try this in 3D. Probably a little bit easier to see at this point. Okay, so what I'm trying to do more or less is get these guys out of here. So there's some walls. Let's right click, we'll say hide by category. And we've got roofs in there. So we'll right click, hide by category. That one doesn't. Okay, so we're just left with our forms, and our mass floor is the purple one here. Okay, so I'm going to try and get the floor itself. Okay, so that's the system family floor. Right click, hide by category, and then anytime you see these purple, that's your actual mass floor there. Okay, so in the plans, these things can be tagged using a mass floor tag. So I'm going to go back and see if we can't pull this off. So that's saying conceptual mass floor. Okay, so you can see there's a difference between the mass floor and the actual mass form. But I can tag this. If we type TG for tag and we hover over this guy here, that's the conceptual mass. That's the conceptual mass floor. That's what we want here. Okay, so I just tabbed to cycle through those different selections, and it says there's no tag loaded for mass floors. So yeah, we want to load one in. We'll come up here and we'll go to annotations and see if we can get a mass floor tag. Alright, so I should be able to go to the annotate tab. We'll say tag all and then choose mass floor here, and we'll say apply. And you can see there's only 2 in here. So it's saying that this one's 1359 square feet, this one's 3400. And if we inspect this tag, we'll be able to see what else it's supposed to be reporting but isn't. So I'm just going to select that tag and say, okay, right. So in the tag, it's telling me that, hey, the usage is supposed to be reported, but if I don't have that usage parameter on these mass floors, then guess what? We're not going to get anything out of it, right? So I'm going to go back and try and find that mass floor. Just going to turn on my face-based selection. And now I've got the mass floor. And there's a usage in here. So I know that this is the schematic office. So we can start typing that in, schematic, right? Because I want it to correspond with the material that I've selected. So that's mass office, or schematic office, sorry. This one would be as well. And now if you go back to your, let's see if we can get that one. Tab, okay, one more. Schematic office. So if we go back into our schedule for this, we're going to start to see these fill in. Okay, so there's 3 over here on level 3. If we go check that one out. And again, just using that functionality from before, I'm going to go to annotate, tag all, and then just use mass floor tags. That way I don't have to go in and try and cycle around these things all over the place. So again, by grabbing these things, tab to select it. When you see it down at the bottom, say mass floor, then you can come in here. So this one will be schematic warehouse. Enter office. This one would be office as well. More. And once we've entered these in, we actually have that data and we can just grab it from the drop down. So I'm not sure what this one's hanging out here. There must be another one that's mass floor. Okay. So that's schematic office as well. Okay, so back in our schedule, we're starting to see things take shape here. So I can see on level 3, there's 2 different usages. So we can start to modify the mass. Okay, so that's your mass floor tag and a mass floor schedule, and modifying those conceptual masses after the fact to start to trim down or to push up the amount of square footage. And then if you want, you can also get these to correspond with different colors. So if we went back to level 3 and turn on the shade mode, you can see that there is a difference between these materials. So there's always lots more that we could cover with conceptual massing. I mean, it's a really powerful tool set that I don't feel a lot of people get a whole lot of exposure to, which is too bad because it is very powerful in Revit. But there's also some other tools like Formit that allow you to create conceptual masses very quick using a tablet even. So those are some things that you could get into. And I guess while we're at it, why not take a look at some of these other features? I'm going to go back to 3D. I want you to see some stuff that's pretty cool here. Maybe this entrance is supposed to be like a curtain system, right? There's other tools. We could create a curtain system using these by face features as well. So let's try that. If I grab this face here and let's grab this face here and we say create system, okay, it's giving us now a curtain system, not a curtain wall, but a curtain system, and they behave a little bit differently. So when I grab that system now, you can see that it's called a 5 foot by 10 foot grid. We could come in here and say, okay, edit this. I want a new one, so I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to call this, I'll call this a 2 foot by 6. So I hit OK, now I've got a different name. Now I can come in here and change some of these parameters in here. So the curtain panel, what are we going to use? Do we have one in here? Sure, let's use this system panel glaze, get some lighting in that entrance. The layout is set to fixed distance. These could be changed to fixed number or maximum spacing. I'm going to stick with the fixed distance, but change that to my 6 foot option, and this one to 2. And then we can go in and specify what mullions we want to use as well. Okay, so I'm just going to stick with these 2.5 by 5s. Bear with me one sec. Let that regenerate. Okay, so you can kind of see what's happening here is the mass itself, the curvature of the mass is true, but these are segmented curtain wall panels essentially. So coming back up here, if we show this by view properties, we're actually seeing that curtain system take place. Now what's unfortunate about this, okay, is that when you come into your mullions, you're going to see these strange overlaps, and the join conditions aren't that great. So you can use a curtain system to get a rough idea, but if you want to really make it right, then what you have to do is kind of get into divided surfaces and maybe adaptive components. So now we're starting to get into a little bit darker territory, but it's fun, it's cool. So let's check it out. We'll take a look at this divided surface here quick, see if we can't expose some of these features. So I'm going to grab this conceptual mass here and say edit in place, and now I'm just going to grab this one face here and this face here, and this guy we did not take a look at initially. If we say divide surface, okay, we get these two surfaces divided, and you can see it says no pattern in here right now. That's fine, but we can go in here and change the layout. So if I say, all right, let's make this 4 and keep the 12 in there, you can see we've increased that panel size. All right, now the other thing is, if I want to attach an adaptive component to this, or a curtain panel, we can go in here and maybe change the representation. So there's a little drop down arrow here that lets us choose to have nodes, and when we have nodes, now we can put an adaptive component on these guys and it'll look pretty neat. Okay, so adaptive components, a whole other territory. We can spend a whole lot of time on that one, but let's just take a look and see if there's something we can add to this. So we select that guy there, okay, and you can see that there's no pattern on this, but there are a bunch of other patterns in here. You can choose the rectangle. There's a rectangle checkerboard option. There's like a rhomboid or a diamond shaped pattern. So these black and white options, they're more or less for like glazed to a spandrel panel or a solid panel. So let's just stick with rectangle for the time being. You can see that's just kind of changed things. It's just said rectangle instead of no pattern. But if you go down here to the bottom, there's nothing at the bottom. We can't see anything in here, but we could add a curtain wall panel. So I'm just going to get out of here for the time being. You can see it's changed that surface representation a little bit. But I'm going to say insert here and go find, maybe I can find a panel that we can use. So I'm going to load up a family, and I'm going to choose curtain panel by pattern. And I think we used rectangle surface. So you can see I've got, there's rectangle checkerboard and then rectangle surface. We'll stick with this one. It's pretty straightforward. And we say OK. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back into the conceptual mask, say edit in place, and select this guy here. And now when if you go back up here where it says rectangle, you'll see at the bottom it's kind of hidden, or very you know, kind of occulted, you could say. Rectangle surface glazed. If we click on that, okay, now you can see it's actually changed all those to be a glazed panel, and we can go in and isolate these ones. So this one's saying that it's glazed. We could make that one solid, right? You can kind of go in and grab individuals, and there's another way of going about this. So I'm going to undo that, and let's just grab this guy here again. We said we want to see that with the nodes. So let's change that back to no pattern. I get my nodes back, okay, and then I'm going to go back down here to where my families are, and under curtain panels, if we expand that, we see empty system panel, rectangular surface, and then system panel. So these are the ones that came in before. We've got these ones here, rectangular surface. I'm going to grab the glazed one, right click, and say create instance. And it wants me to place this on these nodes. Okay, so I'm going to grab this one, this one, this one, and this one. And it creates that panel, and you'll notice that it's still flat, so it's still going to give us a segmented panel. But I'm going to create this next one is going to be solid. Oh, so I'm going to hit cancel, right click on this one, say create instance, and do the same thing as I did before. Okay, so now I've got this alternating sort of thing going on. So I'm going to grab both of these, and this is the fun part. Okay, up here on our array tool, you'll see that there's a little P on this now. This is for repeating the pattern. So I've got both of these selected. So if I click on that now, it takes that whole stripe and it transfers that over and kind of alternates them. All right, so we could achieve that with a different pattern type or a different panel type. Like I said, this whole adaptive component thing, it's a rabbit hole, but it's a really cool rabbit hole to get into. So if you guys are interested, the person I would recommend is take a look at Zach Krohn's YouTube channel. He's got some really interesting stuff on there, and he'll take you into adaptive components real far. Okay, so that's just some more of these features that come with conceptual masses, dividing surfaces and stuff. You can sweep adaptive components along these nodes. There's so much you can do. So if you like this stuff and you think that's interesting, I would really strongly urge you to check out adaptive components. Anyway, that's it for this one. So if you guys have any questions, just leave them in the comment box below, and I will always try to get back to you as soon as possible. And if you have any ideas or any input on this, we'd always love to hear that as well. So thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. Bye now.